June 26, 1977, a day that became a milestone in music history. The king of rock, Elvis Presley, took the stage for the last time in Indianapolis in a performance no one knew would be his final one. But what really happened that night? How did a man battling poor health still manage to make hearts race in the audience? And why, even with visible flaws, is he still remembered as an immortal icon? Get ready to relive Elvis Presley's last act, where the stage became his final resting place, and where the chords of Can't Help Falling in Love marked the end of an era. Let's explore the behind-the-scenes of this historic moment, the legacy left, and, of course, the real Elvis who said goodbye that night. On June 26, 1977, Elvis Presley performed at the Market Square Arena in Indianapolis, in an event that, unknowingly, would mark the end of his live career. To understand the gravity of this moment, we must look at the years leading up to this performance and the context in which the King of Rock was placed. In the 1970s, Elvis's life was far from the glory he had known in the 1950s and 1960s. The 1970s were marked by a series of personal and professional challenges. Elvis's once immense popularity was beginning to decline. Criticism of his performances grew harsher, and many pointed out that the magic of his shows was fading. But the biggest obstacle Elvis faced was not external. His health was in ruins. Throughout the decade, he became dependent on prescription medication. This substance abuse, combined with his excessive lifestyle and rapid weight gain, severely affected his physical condition. Elvis began to suffer from a range of health issues, such as respiratory difficulties, hypertension, and several metabolic disorders. His appearance was no longer that of a vibrant young man, but that of a man constantly fighting the damage his body was enduring. By 1977, Elvis was already in a significantly weakened state. He had been on a summer tour that, to many, showed clear signs of fatigue and exhaustion. His body no longer responded the same way to physical efforts, and his voice, which had once been one of the most powerful in music history, also showed signs of wear. He lacked the energy to sustain the long performances he had done in the past, and he often performed with a more hunched posture, almost as if he was fighting against his own gravity. The months leading up to the June 26 show were difficult. Elvis's physical state deteriorated rapidly, but he still continued with his performance schedule. To many of his fans, he seemed to be a man beyond his time, slowly fading before their eyes. Rumors of his fragile health spread, but still, Elvis never canceled a performance, as his dedication to the stage and his fans was unwavering. What made the Indianapolis show particularly significant was the fact that no one knew it would be his last. For the fans present that night, it was just another performance by a rock icon. But for Elvis, it was probably the end of a cycle. The adrenaline of the stage still had the power to energize him momentarily, but every movement and every note sung seemed like a fight against his physical limits. The 1977 tour, which began in April, had already been marked by cancellations and interruptions due to Elvis's health, but he continued to travel, attempting to maintain the bond with his fans. And it was in this fragile state that he took the stage in Indianapolis, not just to sing, but to say goodbye to a life he could no longer sustain. It was a night of contrasts. The man who had once been synonymous with youth and vigor now struggled to find his energy on stage. His presence was undeniably magnetic, but his physical condition revealed the internal battle he was facing. Even so, Elvis gave himself over to the music, which had always been his refuge, and the connection with his fans was never lost. It was as if the stage was the last place where he could still be truly free, away from the limitations life had imposed on him. This context of deteriorating health and a career already affected by years of excess gave the June 26, 1977 show a unique emotional weight. For those who were there, Elvis was a man who gave himself to what remained of his greatness, and at the same time, he was a legend who would say goodbye without anyone knowing at that moment. Elvis Presley's last show on June 26, 1977, was a performance that became a historical moment not only because of its importance as a farewell, but also because of the contrast between the legend he represented and the man he had become. Even with his health weakened and a visibly altered appearance, Elvis took the stage with the energy and passion that had characterized him, delivering a performance full of contrasting emotions. When the show began, Elvis attempted to take control of the stage with his classic introduction to C.C. Rider. The song, which was one of his favorites and a staple in his live career, was an upbeat, energetic tune and symbolized his ability to engage the audience, even when he was visibly tired. However, it didn't take long to notice something was different. His movements were more limited, and his voice, although still powerful, showed signs of exhaustion. Throughout the show, he alternated between moments of great emotional delivery and others more hesitant, as if he was constantly struggling to find the strength to move forward. One of the standout characteristics of this performance was the sense of urgency that seemed to accompany each song. For many, Elvis's presence still had the power to ignite the crowd. But observing him closely, it was impossible to ignore the signs of wear. His fatigue was visible, and with every song he seemed to need more time to recover. His posture, hunched and tired, was evidence of how much his body had been worn down. The audience, however, seemed to understand they were witnessing something unique and, in a way, sad. They knew that Elvis's presence on stage was still charged with a magnetic energy. But there was also a consciousness that this would be the last time the King would perform live. During slower songs like My Way and Can't Help Falling in Love, Elvis seemed more emotional, immersed in the lyrics, perhaps seeking a more intimate connection with the fans who were witnessing his final show. His rendition of Can't Help Falling in Love, which was the song chosen to end the show, stands as one of the most emblematic moments of the night. While singing this ballad, Elvis seemed to be searching for a way to say goodbye, and the song, with its words of surrender and acceptance, fit perfectly with what he was experiencing in that moment. His rendition of Can't Help Falling in Love, which was the song chosen to end the show, stands as one of the most emblematic moments of the night. While singing this ballad, Elvis seemed to be searching for a way to say goodbye, and the song, with its words of surrender and acceptance, fit perfectly with what he was experiencing in that moment. Vocally, although his voice was not at its best, there was still something powerful about it. Elvis was still able, during the slower sections, to convey all of his emotionality. The vocal flaws were not due to a lack of skill, but rather a reflection of his physical state and the impact of time on his voice. However, he compensated for this limitation with a delivery that only he knew how to do, a raw, honest delivery, as if he was saying goodbye not only to the audience, but also to himself. It's important to highlight that Elvis's performance, no matter how debilitated it was, still displayed the stage command that made him a legend. Despite the difficulties, he maintained the charisma and presence that had made him one of the greatest artists of all time. His interaction with the audience, although more limited, was still warm and touching. He made jokes, smiled, thanked, and spoke to the fans sincerely, as if each word was his last. This only strengthened the connection Elvis had always had with those who loved him. When the show ended, Elvis made a point of saying goodbye in an elegant way, leaving an unforgettable mark with his final song. The choice of Can't Help Falling in Love was symbolic, as it not only spoke of love, but also of accepting the inevitable. Elvis knew he was saying goodbye to his audience, perhaps not knowing how definitive that goodbye would be, but undoubtedly recognizing that his time as the King of Rock was coming to an end. This performance, although marked by physical fragility, still revealed Elvis's immense respect for music, the stage, and his fans. Every movement, every note sung was a blend of personal struggle and professionalism, an emotionally charged farewell, but also a celebration of the greatness of one of the greatest artists the world has ever known. Elvis Presley's legacy goes far beyond his music. He became an immortal figure, a symbol of cultural transformation who left a profound mark on popular music, society, and history. Elvis's final show on June 26, 1977, while recognized as the end of his live career, actually symbolizes just the closing of a chapter in his life. His influence endures to this day, more than 4 decades after his death, keeping him relevant and celebrating him as one of the greatest artists of all time. Elvis's impact on music is undeniable. He was the pioneer of rock and roll, the first to bring this fusion of blues, gospel, and country to the mainstream. His energy on stage, his stylistic innovations, and his charismatic presence helped define the sound and image of rock in the 1950s, forever changing the course of popular music. He was one of the first figures to reach a global audience, and his music and performances helped popularize the genre in a way no other artist had done before. The irony, however, is that even with his last performance in a visibly debilitated physical state, the 1977 show reaffirmed his dedication to art and his audience. Although the Elvis present that night was no longer the vibrant young man who conquered the world in the 50s, he still possessed the essence of the artist who had revolutionized music. Throughout the 1970s, his career went through a series of ups and downs. His records, despite mixed reviews, remained among the top sellers, and his popularity never completely disappeared. The 1970s brought changes to Elvis's musical style, but also allowed him to reinvent himself, releasing a series of albums that remained important for rock and pop music in general. Even after his death, Elvis's legacy only grew. From 1977 onwards, Elvis became a mythical figure, a living legend, whose fans continued to celebrate his life and work. The market for Elvis collectibles expanded significantly, with records, clothing, books, and memorabilia being sold by the millions. Elvis's fame did not diminish over time. On the contrary, it grew, with new fans viewing him not only as a musical icon, but as a representation of a golden age in music and pop culture. Elvis's cultural impact transcended music. His image was associated with rebellion, a desire for freedom, and breaking social norms. He helped pave the way for other figures in rock and pop culture to take on roles of rebels and cultural influencers. Elvis's relationship with young people was particularly important. In the 50s, his music was considered bold, even subversive, challenging traditional morality and the conformity of the time. He became the figure of a new youthful ideal, someone who was not afraid to break the rules and be themselves. This resonated deeply with generations of fans who saw him as a form of expression, freedom, and authentic emotion. Furthermore, Elvis's legacy is inseparable from his image as a global icon. From the moment he began performing in films and expanding his career beyond music, he became more than just a singer. He became a cultural symbol and an entertainment figure. His films, often underrated by critics, are still watched by millions and had a huge influence on how artists deal with their public image and roles outside of music. He was one of the first artists to recognize the power of image and the impact the media could have on shaping his legacy. To this day, Elvis is revered in places like Graceland, his mansion in Memphis, which has become one of the most visited tourist destinations in the world. Graceland is not just a house, it is a sanctuary of his memory, a place where fans from all over the world gather to celebrate the life and work of Elvis. Since his death, Graceland has attracted millions of visitors, all seeking to connect in some way with the legend of the King of Rock. And if his death in 1977 was premature, the impact of his death was like a spark that further ignited the myth surrounding his life. The mourning of his fans was deep, but paradoxically, this also helped solidify his figure as an eternal legend. The media, the music industry, and fans immediately began to celebrate his work in a way that further expanded his influence. His name became synonymous with musical excellence, innovation, and a unique way of living life. Finally, it's important to remember that Elvis Presley was not just a singer or an artist, he was a cultural revolution. Even after his death, his influence continues to spread to new generations of artists, filmmakers, and musicians who are still inspired by the way Elvis redefined what it meant to be a pop culture icon. Every time a new generation of fans rediscovers his music, every time his classics are used in films, commercials, or tributes, Elvis Presley's legacy lives on, stronger than ever. He wasn't just a rising star at the time of his death, he was already, unknowingly, a myth. And unlike other figures in pop culture, his death did not mean the end. On the contrary, it was the beginning of a new era of homage and reverence to one of the greatest artists the world has ever known. Elvis Presley's legacy in 1977 did not end on the stage in Indianapolis. It continues to live on, eternally resonating in the hearts of his fans and in the history of music. And so, Elvis Presley's last show remains not just a farewell, but a testament to his greatness and eternal legacy. A legend who, even in his most fragile moments, never stopped shining in the hearts of his fans. The King of Rock may have left us, but his music and his story live on, echoing through generations. If you were moved, learned, and relived this unforgettable moment, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to continue following more amazing content about the life and legacy of figures like Elvis. Activate the notifications to be the first to know whenever a new video is released. And don't forget to leave your like. It helps us continue bringing videos like this, always with plenty of research, emotion, and of course, respect for the icons of music. Share this video with your friends who are also fans of the King or who love good music. Let's keep Elvis's memory alive and spread that passion worldwide. See you in the next video. Until then, keep rockin'.